Board tonight. Welcome to the March 10th Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'm Josh Neely, Vice Chair. Unfortunately, the Chair could not be with us tonight. With me tonight is Member J.P. Boucher, Member Robert Shaw, Member Steve Lionel, and Assistant, alternate, I get that wrong every time, alternate Joseph Patry. We do only have 5 voting members tonight, including Mr. Patry, so he will be voting on all cases tonight unless he recuses himself. Just to get things going here and go over the rules here, quick bit of housekeeping. The minutes and the audio-visual recordings will be available on nashvilleNewHampshire.gov. Tonight we are hearing, looks like 3 cases, all of which are variances. As you know from your applications, the variances must meet 5 criteria to be approved by the board. The 5 criteria for a variance are that the variance will not be contrary to public interest, the spirit of the ordinance is observed, substantial justice is done, the value of surrounding property is not diminished, and literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Tonight, what we're going to do is take the 3 cases in order. We will ask for the applicant to step up to the microphone over here, which is adjustable, or you can pull it off. Please speak into the microphone as this is being recorded. Please state your name and address, and tell us in your words what you're trying to do. We have read all of the applications and any accompanying documentation, so you don't have to go point by point through the application, but we really just want to hear in your words what you're trying to do. After we have heard from the applicant, we will ask if anybody is in favor. Anybody who is in favor has up to 5 minutes to speak of why they are in favor. And after that, I will ask if anybody has any questions or they're opposed. Once again, each person stepping up, please state your name and address when you come up, and you have up to 5 minutes to tell us why you're opposed or to ask questions. At the conclusion of anybody who's in opposition, we will ask the applicant to come back up. They have 5 minutes to respond to any of the opposition or any questions that were asked. And in the event we get to this point where there's more than one person that has spoken up in opposition, that person or one person agreed to by anybody in opposition has up to 5 minutes to come up and make final remarks or ask any more questions. After that, we will close the public hearing and we will have a public meeting up here where the board will discuss the points of the case. In order for us to move forward and approve one of the applications, 3 people must vote in favor of the application. Is there any questions from anybody in the audience on how this flows here? All right, and we're going to go through a brief attendance here. I also forgot to mention, Mr. Carter Falk from the city is to our left. We do use him as a great source of information if we have any questions as a board. We will call attendance now. I am Josh Neely. I am the vice chair, and I am here. Mr. Boucher?
Present.
Mr. Shaw?
Present.
Mr. Lionel?
Present.
And Mr. Patry?
Present.
And Mr. Falk, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, there are not.
All right, thank you. And tonight, the order of the cases will be 39 Simon Street, 57 Palm Street, and the 15 and 19 Atherton Avenue, and we'll cover them in that order. And that being said, we will start off the process. Is the applicant for 39 Simon Street in the building? Step on up and tell us in your words what you'd like to do, please. Yes.
Hi.
Yep, I'm sorry. One other point here is I do need to officially read the case into the record. So the applicant is the Elizabeth Ryder Trust owner, Kayla Jerry LCO Holdings LLC applicant, 39 Simon Street, Unit 15, Sheet E, Lot 824, requesting a use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 102, to allow a massage therapist and esthetician office in a multi-tenant office park. This is in the PI zone in Ward 4. And the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Kayla Jerry. I am looking to get a variance for 39 Simon Street. My address is 54 Aaron Drive, and I've been operating my business in Nashua for the past 5 years. Our whole clientele is here. The only reason for us leaving is I couldn't keep the place that we were at. We couldn't stay there. So looking around, trying to find a place to be, every place I've found is in an industrial zone. So no matter what building I'm looking at, it looks like I'm going to be here. So we're appointment only. We have about 5 to 6 girls there. They all work different schedules, so we're never there at the same time. Normal business hours with all the businesses that are already in that complex. All the people who I went and met with, they're all think that we would be great and fit really well and be able to all coincide together, and that it's good for the community and everywhere around there. It's minimal for traffic, parking. Again, it's not every day. Some days we work, some days we don't. Yeah, I think that's pretty much sums it up. So we're estheticians, and then we have one massage therapist.
Okay.
And we're already all established and all have our clientele, and just want to keep resuming business as usual.
Okay, great. Anything in addition you want to add?
No.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, you are free to sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application? Yes. Yeah.
So the owner and one person that's on the board for the building, she couldn't make it. She had a family emergency, but she did send me a letter, and I printed out for you guys. I know that's not really.
We just received got one.
She
Yeah.
did.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, "I'm so sorry."
So it's okay. When you sit down, we're going to read it into,
Okay,
into
all
the
right.
record
Thank you
anyways.
so much.
Yeah, of course. Is anybody else in the room in favor of this application who'd like to speak? Okay, if that's the case, then I'd like to read this email into the record. A letter of support for the change of use application for the property owner of 39 Simon Street, Unit 15. This was received from Kelly Karan. To whom it may concern, I am writing as a trustee owner of 39 Simon Street, Unit 15, to express my support for the proposed change of use application for the space. Based on my understanding of the proposed operation, I do not believe that the use will not create any negative impact on neighboring units or surrounding properties. The business intends to operate during normal business hours consistent with other businesses located at North Crest. The prospective tenant has taken the initiative to introduce themselves to other businesses within the complex. To the best of my knowledge, no concerns or opposition have been raised by the neighboring occupants. Additionally, I serve as a member of the Board of Directors for the association, and based on my familiarity with the property and the existing mix of businesses, I believe the proposed use will complement the community and be consistent with the character of the complex. Importantly, the proposed use is expected to be a low-impact operation with minimal traffic, no unusual noise or nuisance conditions, and parking demand that is consistent with the capacity and typical usage patterns within the North Crest. For these reasons, I am pleased to offer my support for the applicant's request. Please feel free to contact me if any additional information would be helpful. Sincerely, Kelly Caron, trustee, the Elizabeth Ryder Trust, owner, Unit 15, 39 Simon Street, Nashua, New Hampshire. That being said, is there anybody in opposition to this application? All right, if that's the case, then we are going to close this up and have a discussion up here on the dais.
If I may just make a comment, in
Yes.
this letter that you read from Ms. Caron, I think that she did not mean to have two knots in that sentence, where it says, I do not believe the use will not create a negative impact.
I concur with your assessment, which is why I kind of stumbled over that.
Yes.
I definitely think there's a typo there, but it definitely came across that she is in support, so this
Yes.
is definitely a letter in support. All right. So we're going to close the public hearing, open the public meeting. Would anybody like to comment or discuss? Mr. Shaw?
I see no issues with this. It feels like it's being well accepted by the existing businesses, the ownership there. There's, as noted, especially in that letter, there's no evidence that there'll be anything about the operation of this business that will cause any undue traffic or busyness or excessive use or any of those kinds of things. So I feel like it's reasonable, and I will be supporting it.
Excellent. Anybody else like to make any comments? All right, well, I also am in support of this application. I did a drive-by, I think, on Friday. That parking lot was pretty empty, so I'm not worried about the parking concerns. This reminds me of a recent case we had on Northeast Boulevard with that condo complex back there, the business condos, and it's just quite a huge mixture of stuff. I took a quick look around Northport here, if that's the name of it, and it is, once again, a mixture of businesses in there. This is going to fit really, really well in there. We have a letter of support from the trustee. So for those reasons, I support this application.
Just
Mr.
make
Shaw.
a further comment. And as applicant noted, and we have seen many similar cases, not just the one you referenced, but, you know, there's the ones that are over there by the airport. And she noted how it seems that everywhere she was looking, she was finding herself in basically one of these kind of park industrial locations. So it just seems to be what a lot of those properties have ended up becoming and supporting these kind of businesses, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've seen businesses have changed over the last 20 years about what's in the storefront and what's, the zoning regulations will change with it. It just, it just is what it is, So for those reasons, I'm in favor. Would somebody like to make a motion on this variance? Mr. Boucher?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for the Elizabeth Ryder Trust, owner Kayla Jerry, LCO Holdings LLC, applicant 39 Simon Street, Unit 15, Sheet E, Lot 824, requesting a use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 102, to allow a massage therapist and esthetician office in a multi-tenant office parks in the PI Zone, Ward 4. We find that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest. Again, as we discussed, and mainly was also testified to that, again, the character of the neighborhood would not be altered for this use. We find that the spirit of the ordinance would be observed, again, mainly because it's in concert with what's going on there. So again, the character of the neighborhood, following again with the several other businesses that have been identified that are similar in nature to this request. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because, again, it would allow the property owner to use a space for the requested use. And again, we have approved similar requests before this location. We find that we find that the value of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because of this request. So again, and then lastly, under the unnecessary hardship, finding that owing to special conditions of property that distinguish from other properties in the area, we find that the proposed use is a reasonable one, again, because this property has changed over the years and into more of these businesses that provide services. And the business that's going in there is not a high-traffic type business, so it's in concert with what is happening there right now. So with that, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Lionel, thank you. Any additional discussion on this application? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, that motion does pass 5-0. Congratulations. One thing, yeah, of course, one thing I did not mention earlier is there is a 30-day window of appeal. I would not expect that's going to happen, so please proceed with your project. If an appeal is made, Mr. Fox's office will reach out to you. But you're all set. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, we will read the next case into the record here. Palm Square LLC, owner, 57 Palm Street, sheet 83, lot 67, requesting a variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, to exceed maximum density for elderly housing to allow a total of 151 residential units within an existing building, where 140 units with a restaurant space was permitted by the Zoning Board on 10/24/2006. 92 units are permitted, converting former restaurant space to 11 new residential units. This is located in the RC and GB zones in Ward 4. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Morgan Hollis. I'm an attorney at Gottesman & Hollis, 39 East Pearl Street in Nashua, and I'm representing the owner as well as the applicant, Palm Square LLC. The property is, as identified, located at 57 Palm Street. For those of you who've been around a long time in Nashua, you know it probably as the former Batesville Casket Company. Back in 2006, I came before the board on behalf of the owner of the property to convert the mill building, gut it essentially, and to allow it for elderly housing. At the time, only 92 units were allowed by density. We requested relief from the ordinance because of the vast size of the building and the fact that elderly units are small. And if you put only 92 in there, you have a lot of open space. And the variance was granted. 140 elderly units were allowed. The front portion, that is the portion of the building closest to West Hollis Street, was designed and laid out as a restaurant facility. And it's operated for approximately 20 years. 4 different owners, including multiple subsidies by the property owner to those restaurant owners, and yet no restaurant has survived there. And there are a lot of reasons why. I think there's access, there's parking right in front is limited, there's a lot of parking to the rear for the residents, but no parking really in the front where the restaurant is. In any event, my client has asked me to come before the board to ask for relief to convert the restaurant to 11 additional units. And that would mean we would need a variance to increase the density from the 92 up to the 140 as permitted, but now asking for 11 more units. I'm just going to cover quickly the 5 points as set forth in the application. Essentially, the first one is will not alter the character of the neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood is dense, multifamily, and mixed-use commercial along West Hollis Street. What we're proposing to do won't be noticeable from the exterior. The building will remain exactly the same. The parking will remain the same. We would need, of course, to go for a change of use, partial change of use, and we think we can get administrative approval of the site plan for that, but there'll be no change in the exterior, and the use will be in accord with what's in the neighborhood. Fairly heavy density mixed use. The proposed use is less than 10% increase. Also, there would be no threat to health, safety, or welfare, as there is parking on the site, plenty of parking for the restaurant, number spaces, and the parking spaces to the rear, which were dedicated to the restaurant, will now be available for the residents who enter the building from the rear for the most part. There's also, as I say, sewer and water service available, so there's no threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. Number 2 is the proposed increase in density is really just a replacement for a fairly general business type of use of a restaurant, and it is much more in keeping with the neighborhood. It will allow consistent use of the property and therefore not alter the character of the neighborhood or threaten the health, safety, or welfare of the public. It's likely to reduce traffic in the neighborhood because, again, it is elderly, small units. Under number 3, the substantial justice will be granted if you grant the variance. The owner has attempted a number of versions of the restaurant and commercial space in that area. Various iterations have failed. There is still some commercial space that the residents are able to use and utilize, but this space is essentially unusable. And granting the variance to allow single-family elderly units will not harm the public in any way. As I say, there'll be no exterior changes in the area. Number 4, there'll be no adverse impact on values of the surrounding property, as allowing 11 residential units instead of a large restaurant will not have an adverse impact, as it is a permitted use in the RC zone. It is listed as being RC and HB, but it is only the initial strip along the West Hollis Street. Almost all of the building and all of these units will be in the RC, so it is a permitted use within that district. It's just the density. As I say, there's no exterior changes. Parking is adequate, and they meet the numbers. Number 5, the property is, there's a hardship on the property, and from that hardship we need relief. The property is a very large former casket manufacturing facility, rehabilitated into housing, restaurant, and existing commercial space. There's no other property in the neighborhood like it. and that's what makes it unique, the building itself. A hardship was found in 2006 where 140 units were allowed because of the size of the units and the nature of the units, elderly. It fit within the building properly, and the density has not created a problem in the neighborhood. The special condition of the property has not changed. However, the viability of the restaurant as proposed has increased the hardship on the property, necessitating further relief. The general public purpose of limiting density of units per acre is to prevent overcrowding. And generally, when you think of acreage, you think of land, not just a building. Obviously, this building occupies nearly all of the acreage of this lot. So we're talking about a kind of a unique situation here. And converting interior space to additional housing from restaurant and prohibiting that conversion and restricting the density has no fair and substantial relationship to the purpose of why density is established in the first place. We believe that application of that regulation to this property therefore bears no fair and substantial relationship to the purpose of density restrictions. Allowing an identical permitted usage for elderly housing as to what exists with only a slight increase in density of units per square foot or per acreage is a reasonable use. Furthermore, if the variance isn't granted, we really, under B of the number 5 criteria, if the variance isn't granted because of its uniqueness, there really isn't any reasonable use of that area. We've tried over the last 20 years, and here we are. With that, I think we've met all 5 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Boucher?
Yes, the proposed units, is that typical of the rest of the building, smaller, larger, or is that typical?
It's typical. They're almost identical to what's out there.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I do have one question, just for my own curiosity. Did I read this right, that there's a police substation in there?
I don't know if there is now.
Okay.
At one point, there was one. I don't know if there is a substation.
Interesting, okay.
I know that there's commercial space and it's varied uses, but I don't know. My client was unable to make tonight, so I can't answer that.
No problem. And no additional questions from the board? You are free to sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition or have questions about this application? All right, if that's the case, then we are going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Does anybody want to start? Mr. Lionel?
Yeah, I'm in support of this application. Restaurants, I didn't even know there was a restaurant at that location, and I've lived in the city for many, many, many years. So I can, and I know that restaurants can go very quickly. So it does not astonish me at all that they had difficulty making a restaurant survive in that location. Given that there are no exterior changes to the building, this is converting the existing restaurant space to additional units that are similar to what already exists. I'm in full support.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? So Mr. Boucher?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah?
Again, I'm in support of the application. I had visited the different restaurants, and I know over time, last time I went to it, I don't remember the name of it, but there was just myself and my wife in there. So it was kind of eerie, but, so I understand that. And I think, again, it's good use of the property. Again, if they hadn't planned a restaurant, I think, maybe back then they would have also asked for some units down there, so it kind of makes sense to use that space for that. And I know that at one time, as I remember years ago, there was always these questions about parking, but I think they've adequately addressed the parking for that facility, so I'll be supporting the application.
Thank you. So I'm also in favor. I ironically had a very similar experience at the last restaurant. I think there was 4 of us in there total. So I do think that with the housing stock issues and the fact that it's going to look exactly the same inside with what they have already set up in there, no external changes. And once again, I think there's a ton of parking there, but they've actually got the stuff on the side as well as behind and in front. So I'm in favor. Does anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Lionel, please.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Palm Square LLC owner, 57 Palm Street, sheet 83, lot 67, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16 Table 16-3, to exceed maximum density for elderly housing to allow a total of 151 residential units within existing building, where 140 units with a restaurant space was permitted by the zoning board on October 24th, 2006. 92 units would be permitted according to the density requirements of the ordinances. And this is to convert former restaurant space to 11 new residential units. This is in the RC and GB zones, Ward 4. The board finds that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest because there would be basically no disturbance to outside the unit. There's no exterior changes to the building, and additional housing is always a benefit. The spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the density requirement of the ordinance reflects the crowding of the lot, and there's no changes to the exterior, so this is a large building that pretty much fills the lot, and so there'd be no changes there. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it allows the owner to make use of this part of the property that has not been successful over many years. And we have no evidence that values of surrounding properties would be diminished. And applicant owing the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties, given that it's a very large building in the downtown area. There's nothing else quite like it. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to this property. Again, because the density requirement, there's no external effect to this additional density, therefore it would be not visible. So for all of those reasons, I make a motion to grant the variance.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Patry, do we have any additional discussion about this application? Okay, all those in favor? Congratulations, this did pass. As you know, there's a 30-day window of appeal. I don't think that's going to happen, but if something comes up, Mr. Falk's office will let you know. Have a great night. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, and we're going to call the final case into being here. Vernon C. Shelby and estate of Samuela Shelby and Philip Samard, owners, 15 and 19 Atherton Avenue, sheet 46, lots 22 and 23, requesting the following. Number one, a use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, number 15, to allow 16 multi-family units in 3 buildings, and the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3. Number 2, for land area, 51,619 square feet existing, 116,160 square feet required. Number 3, for open space, 50% required, 48% proposed. And number 4, for floor area ratio, 50% allowed, 61% proposed. And number 5, for maximum building stories, 2.5 stories permitted, 3 stories proposed. All requests to remove 2 single-family houses and construct 16 multifamily units. This is located in the RA and RC zones in Ward 3. That was a mouthful. Counselor, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Andy Perlman, attorney with Perlman & Perlman at 20 Trafalgar Square here in Nashua. You'll forgive me, I went to Florida last week and came home with a cold, so I'll muscle through. I do have a handout for the board, but I don't want you to look at it until the end because I'll explain it. Mr. Chairman, good evening. Andy Perlman again. I'm here on behalf of LaFavor and Company Development Partners Limited Liability Company. With me tonight is Ethan Beals from IMEG, our project engineer. We're here to talk about 15 and 19 Atherton Avenue. We're seeking 5 variances. We're seeking a use variance because multifamily homes are not allowed in the RA district, and we're seeking 4 dimensional variances as laid out in the application, and I'll speak to them. We are doing a couple things with this proposal. We are seeking to consolidate 15 and 19 Atherton Ave to make it into one lot. We are seeking to subdivide a very small portion, an 8-foot strip on the northern edge, and if successful, we're going to convey that to our neighbor at 21 Atherton to the north, because if you look very closely on your plans, you'll see that our neighbor to the north at 21 Atherton, his driveway encroaches onto our property, and so we're going to take care of that with just a little bit of strip, a small strip along the length of the property in favor of Mr. Sutton. Mr. Sutton has a letter into the board tonight. And then the third thing we are proposing to do is install, knock down the 2 existing homes and install 16 new condominium units. And you see the renderings that have been provided by the applicant. Standard 3-story garage, back room, second floor is den, kitchen, living area, and then the third floor are the 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. These are really today's starter homes. It's what we see townhouse development being built. We believe this is a good fit for the neighborhood. If you look at the GIS in your packet, especially the GIS with the aerials, you'll see that these 2 lots as is are some of the larger lots. 15 and 19 are some of the larger lots in the neighborhood. These lots were established by the Nashua Manufacturing Company in 1936, and the lots along Atherton Avenue are larger lots, and then as you go north, and then as you spread out along Lock Street, many of the lots are much smaller, typical house-sized lots. Our neighborhood, frankly, is conducive to what we're proposing. We have 2 multifamily properties to the south of us, each of them 6 units. We have PSNH and the railroad behind us. We have Atherton Park in front of us, and we have residential housing to the north. So we have a split zone lot. You can see that on the plan. The southwestern corner of the lot is in the RC district. Most of our lot is in the RA district. The condominium units themselves, the current builder, the Lefevre company, these are the same folks who built the Sapphire condominium and the Opal condominium. That's their nicknames. So it's 111 Lock Street and 115 Lock Street. And we expect a very similar product, a similar successful sellout when we're all done. The condo units will be serviced by all public utilities. We're not going to have any impact upon excessive impact upon public utilities. And so, Mr. Chairman, just to speak to the criteria, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions. Ethan is here to answer any questions the board may have. But with respect to the use variance, the multifamilies in the RA district, we have a genuine mix of uses in this area. You look at Lock Street, you look at the mix of multifamily homes and single-family homes on Atherton. We believe we have a reasonable mix of uses in the area, and with that, we don't see that these additional homes will be impacting the character of the neighborhood or impacting any public rights for any, or adversely impacting any public rights of others. The spirit of the ordinance is observed in this instance because we could come at this, the use variance differently. We could come at this under section 190.13B, where we could seek a conditional use permit through the planning board because of the split zone lot. But that's a little risky because to get to the planning board, it takes a lot of time and expense. And if there's some hiccup with the planning board on the conditional use permit, then we just spend a lot of time and money. And so what we're trying to do is just secure the permitting, secure the right to build multifamily homes at this stage with this application. But considering that we could come at this from a conditional use permit, we believe that we're not in violation of the spirit of the ordinance with allowing the multifamily at this site, given the split zone for this property. We believe substantial justice will be done. All parties benefit. The city gets a much-needed housing stock. The current owners get to sell their properties, their older properties. Wouldn't make sense to really renovate the existing homes. The applicant gets to build out the site. We believe the substantial justice balancing test weighs in favor of the applicant in this instance. We have a letter from Keller Williams, the Commercial Realty Division, and the broker in this instance went through a lot of detail. Often when I get these letters, they're maybe like a one page, one paragraph, but there's a lot of analysis and detail. I won't read it to you, but the conclusion is, after reviewing all factors, that there'd be no impact, and in fact, probably be an improvement of property values with the new construction. And finally, we have an overly large lot with a split zone and with a mix of uses in the area. We believe we have a reasonable proposal to the board. We don't believe there's a fair and substantial reason to deny this application with respect to the multifamily housing. And we're proposing a residential use in a residential district, which we believe is a reasonable use. So that, Mr. Chairman, is my use variance application. My second, the way I kind of put this together is I then lumped all the dimensional variances into one set of criteria because they're all very similar. Because if you look at what we're trying to do, density, open space, floor to area ratio, and building stories, they all serve the same purpose. They all serve is not to overcrowd, not to overbuild, not to mess up the character of the neighborhood. And I believe that we're okay on this point because with the overly large lot, again, the two lots as is are larger for the neighborhood. When you put them together, we believe we have a reasonable proposal to the board. We believe that the 16 units, the way they're laid out, the way they're facing the park, and then the working with our neighbor to the north, who doesn't have an objection to this, we believe we have a reasonable proposal on all four of the variances requested for the dimensions. The open space, we're just shy of the open space, just off by approximately 2%. The floor to area ratio, we're okay in the RC district, but with the RA district, it's a little more restrictive. And so we have a little too much floor area, given the 3 floors of the buildings. But with the layout and the design, we believe this is a reasonable proposal. And the building stories, this is very common, the garage, living floor, and then the bedroom floor. So we believe this. And then these are, we have the same thing on Rock Street that the Lefebvre company built at Opal. Same type of thing, garage, first floor, second floor. So we believe I have, again, a reasonable proposal on all 4 of these. Just touching on the criteria very briefly, with the mix of uses in the area, we don't believe the dimensional variances being requested will alter the character of the neighborhood or affect anyone's public or harm anyone's public rights. We believe we meet the spirit of the ordinance because we will not be overcrowding or overbuilding the property. Due to the oversized lot and the proximity to the RC district, we don't believe we would be altering the character of the neighborhood. And again, on substantial justice, same criteria. We believe all parties benefit under substantial justice. You have the Keller Williams letter, and the hardship here is the oversized lot with the proximity to the RC and portion of our property being in the RC district. We believe they have a reasonable use, and there's no fair and substantial reason to prohibit the request. Now, Mr. Chairman, 2 things. Carter, I'm sorry. What was his name? Howard Chain? Who was this?
Howard Chain.
A neighbor was here earlier, and he lives in the immediate townhouse development, multifamily townhouse development to our south. And if you've driven by, you saw that his fence, this old wooden fence, stockade fence, is falling apart, beat up, and just failing. And he asked for a fence. He asked for us to put up a fence along our southern border, his northern border. The answer is yes. We're happy to commit to that. He was looking for a vinyl fence. I can't commit to that. Probably will be because they're easy to maintain, but I don't know the aesthetic of what my client wants to do here. But we will commit to a 6-foot fence running along that boundary. The type of fence is, to be determined. And secondly, well, two more things. So you have the letter from Mr. Sutton in your packet. He's our neighbor to the north. And we have worked out with Mr. Sutton that what originally were going to be second floor decks along all of the back of the units. Units 1, 2, and 3 that immediately abut Mr. Sutton's home will be patios at ground level. They won't be decks. And then you can see his other conditions that he lays out in his letter are all exactly what Lefevre and Mr. Sutton worked out. And so those are all agreeable and all acceptable to the applicant. And finally, Mr. Chairman, my handout to you, and there was a comment from a neighbor that came in, an email comment that was concerned about traffic. And that's a fair concern. We're all concerned about traffic. When you take 2 homes and you propose to install 16 homes, what's going to happen to my traffic? So what I provided to the board is a traffic memo that we had prepared by Steve Pernaugh, a traffic engineer, for the Lock Street project, Sapphire Place. And that project had 18 units. And the conclusion by Mr. Pernaugh is that the traffic impact is going to be so low that it doesn't require a traffic study according to the National Planning Board regulations. So I don't mean to have you read that or have that distract you, but the point is, with 18 units across the street, we didn't have to do a traffic study because it's such low impact at AM and PM peak hours. So we believe the same criteria will apply here. With 16 units, we're not going to have anywhere near a level of traffic that would require any type of mitigation or any type of additional street work. Again, the point is, with the National Planning Board, we have to do a traffic memo, and that traffic memo will determine whether or not you do a traffic study, and we didn't come close with 18 units. We think the same result will happen here. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation. If I may turn to Ethan, you got that? Okay. Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Shaw?
Just noting that Mr. Sutton's letter notes that there was already an agreement to do a white vinyl fence on that northern boundary of the property.
Okay.
It certainly seems like it should be reasonable to do that one on the southern.
Fair enough. Yeah, I skipped over that piece. I knew there would be a fence, but
Yeah.
So let's commit to a vinyl fence on the south side.
Okay. The thing I wanted, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and this has been kind of a typical concern for me with these kind of proposals, is it gets to this whole essence or question of treating the side yards dimensionally, actually, even though they only have the requirement of a typical side yard setback, treating them more like a rear yard setback. And from the simple, I don't want to go too much into it because I've covered this before, but the general point being that you have all these, like, the rear parts of these structures that are now to the side of whatever the abutter is. So in the case of that southerly, one, obviously, essentially now, both of these properties kind of function because of the way the existing multifamily is there that's like the rear yards to each other. Now, it looks like, the setback that is in kind of an existence with that multifamily is pretty similar to what you're proposing. So it doesn't look like they are at a 25-foot, which would be kind of, in my view, kind of the ideal. But, and then, I think I'm happy that it seems that at least there's been an ability with your proposal and Mr. Sutton to come to an agreement, with things like the accommodations with the patios instead of decks and that kind of thing. And in one sense, because you're doing this kind of 8-foot, swap, there's almost like an inherent kind of additional 8 feet of setback that's there, though I get it, like it's more, this all happened because of this existing driveway, but it seems like there's been, you know, an attempt to have a reasonable kind of, you know, accommodation and agreement with that abutter. But I guess I bring all this up to kind of get at, and I have some concerns when I to look at and see, you know, if you were going to try to start to squeeze those, the north and south kind of buildings in a little bit to get a better setback, if you will, that you might start to impact the ability to get the parking out there, or, you know, whether it's the driveway parking or even that visitor parking. So I do appreciate that it seems like it could be like kind of other consequences to this proposal. So I guess, can you speak to that as far as what was considered, what's being done in any of that regard?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Shaw. We had the same discussion, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so, when there was a 6-unit proposal on Pennachuck Street, but those were standalone units, which I think is a little different from the townhouse type units. And so what we have here is yes, we're going for 16 units, and that seems like a lot. But if we were to squeeze it tighter, remember each condominium unit has 2 parking spaces, a garage and then 1 driveway. If we were to move the side buildings in closer, we would lose that, you know, the 20-foot driveway depth that we need. And so we really tried to accommodate, meeting all the setbacks. The side yard setbacks at 10 feet, and I hear what you're saying, it has the effect of a rear yard setback, but you know, we're trying to meet all the criteria as best we can. Perhaps we could shift the building, not necessarily move it forward, but perhaps we could shift it back a little bit, so it has less impact on Mr. Sutton. But again, we do meet the setback. He's getting an additional 8 feet. Our friends to the south, it was a similar type of project, and they're going to get a fence as well. So we're doing the best we can with you know, the site, even though it's a larger site, with the 2 lots. But it is a good point. We've encountered it before.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any additional questions from the board? Mr. Patry?
So the trip generation analysis, and maybe you said this and maybe I missed it. I guess this is sort of by analogy, since this is for 113 Lock Street and from 2019. Was that actually built? I can't.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's sold out.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 units.
Okay.
It's actually on that.
So it's this.
There's 2 different ones that are,
Okay.
I don't remember which one that is.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yep.
That's all. Thanks.
Any additional questions from the board? Yes, sir.
I guess I was going to see if anybody else asked this, but I guess I'm not sure that I've heard sufficient justification or what's really behind going from, and I can't remember now if we assumed that you know, the multifamily would be allowed on this lot, because that's you almost have to stipulate that for this question. But I think then, going with the calculations and all, was it 7 or maybe 8 units would be allowed by right with kind of just the dimensional part of things?
With the 2 lots combined,
Yeah.
7 units would be permitted by right, and we're seeking the variance up to 16 units.
Yeah, so I guess what I want to hear more about is, you know, what drove the 16? Why isn't 7 sufficient? Can you speak to that some?
Well, it's just, the layout of the lot really called for the number of units and the layout of the unit, the 6 units, 4 units, 6 units. We think symmetrically it works. We think the site is large enough to handle 16 units. We believe that the 60 units won't, you know, overly impact the neighborhood. With the way the kind of the open area in the middle, we think it accommodates 16 units. You could certainly do 7 units. You could do 2 units. all right? But that's not what developers do. And so they're looking to do what we believe to be a reasonable request to the board at 16 units, given the lot as combined. We think that is a reasonable proposal, and we think that makes sense. And again, you know, we could seek out a conditional use permit with the planning board, but again, we wanted to nail down the permitting at this stage before, you know, spending a boatload of money and time going forward with the planning board. But so we believe we have a reasonable proposal at 16 units, not more, and you know, anything less. I mean, you certainly could do fewer units, but we believe this is a reasonable proposal. And given the, you know, the demand for housing stock, we need it.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaw, are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional questions from the board? Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of this motion, this application? All right, I am going to read the majority of one letter that we received that was alluded to by the counselor. This is from Stanley Robert Sutton, dated February 25th, 2026, who lives at 21 Atherton Avenue in Nashua, 03064. Dear members of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I am the owner and resident of the property at 21 Atherton Avenue, Nashua, New Hampshire, which directly abuts the proposed development site at 15 and 19 Atherton Avenue. I have reviewed the plans for the proposed combination of the two lots into a single parcel for a 16-unit, multifamily residential development, including necessary variances for density, setbacks, open space, and other dimensional requirements under Nashua's RA zoning district. As the closest abutter and the primary single-family resident on the street, other properties are rentals or multifamily. I am familiar with the neighborhood and the potential impacts of the project. The developer has addressed my primary concerns regarding privacy, visual impact, and neighborhood character by agreeing to, it looks like, 6 conditions. These measures minimize any intrusion on my backyard view, privacy, and daily use of my property. The project's design, including the proposed height, density, and open space, is acceptable to me and will not create undue adverse impact on my property or the surrounding community. Accordingly, I do not object to the granting of the requested variances and approvals for this project. Sincerely, Stanley Robert Sutton from 21 Atherton Avenue. This is the letter that was alluded to by the counselor when we had the earlier presentation. And is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak in opposition or has questions about the application? Excellent. Okay. Well, if that is the case, then we will.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we do have the one letter, so that would
sorry.
actually be, essentially it is an opposition.
I was going to
okay.
say that, and then I have a comment as well.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry about that, everybody. We do have an email that was received from Sonia Trapp. Hello, my name is Sonia, and I live at 6 Sapphire Lane in Nashua, near the complex that will be built. I am writing to let you know that I would be opposed to this multifamily unit. The traffic and congestion of people in this area is out of control. I often almost get hit by cars walking my dog because there are too many people in one area. Please don't allow the building of these multifamily units to happen. There are too many people in this area already. Sonia, thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman, that's why I provided that memo, the traffic memo, because while empirically, sometimes we feel traffic is out of control, you know, statistically, it's a very low traffic generator. But I do have just one additional comment, and thank you to Ethan Beals, with respect to Mr. Shaw's question. Had this been an all RC district, we would have been allowed 14 units by right. But because we have the split zone RA, RC, and again, we're putting together a larger lot, we believe that 16 is a reasonable request. So, thank you again.
Any additional questions? Mr. Shaw, were you winding up
No,
now?
actually, but that's helpful. I think I was ready to ask that and then forgot to, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Opposition, anybody else speak?
I already asked if there was any opposition. No. Okay. So we're going to close the public hearing, open the public meeting. Would anybody like to lead us in discussion? Mr. Shaw?
I mean, I think people could tell I had some concerns. I mean, I do think that the setback issue that is kind of like one of my kind of hot buttons, I'm not as concerned on this project for kind of what part, and part of even what I talked about in the questioning of the applicant, in that, you know, the southernmost affected property is one that already has a similar setback, and we're not aware of any opposition from them. You know, we did have one neighbor that lives there that did inquire before the meeting started, and, you know, that seemed to be the fence was the only thing that at least he expressed as a concern. So, and then the northernmost neighbor, the primary single-family resident, Mr. Sutton, you know, already basically worked through with the applicant his concerns, and it seems to me that if the setback was a bigger concern, like, you know, that I've voiced, that he would have probably pursued that more so with the applicant, and he's come to a point of comfort with this. So that gives me a fairly good amount of kind of comfort with that. The density, you know, one thing I was already looking at, it wasn't specifically cited by the applicant, but that, again, that property, the multifamily that's just to the south of the applicant, is much more densely packed onto that lot than what is being proposed here. And now with that understanding that, you know, this lot being mixed between RA and RC, and the fact that it's right on basically that, you know, boundary of the RC zone, having more units that, you know, it's okay, it's 7 only allowed for RA, but 14 would be allowed for RC. The 16 proposed is much more reasonable also in that sense. So I feel like I've gotten to a point of being okay with this based on those aspects. I think the dimensional things, in general, you know, which is, you know, some of what I brought up as concern isn't even, you know, part of the direct part of what's being asked for. But I think that you know, this lot will not actually be that crowded, even with the number of units, and they're not large units, so I think that's helpful. The fact that they go up the 3 stories, you know, there is a bit of, you know, trade-off there, but I think that actually helps reduce the overall footprint of the usage of the lot itself. So I think it's reasonable, and I think I'm okay with that also. And the conditional use I'm okay with also. So I guess ultimately I am in support for those reasons.
Thank you. Anybody else like to state how they feel on this? Mr. Lino?
Yeah, I'm in support. I mean, when I went to take a look and I saw the adjoining property that was, you know, similarly built out, and a large lot with basically, you know, nothing behind it, nothing in front of it, and we have, excuse me, the neighbors on both sides seeming to have not a problem with it. I think the only thing, the question I had in my mind was the 3 stories, because we've often not approved more than 2.5 stories for residential, but I think that 3 stories is appropriate here, and so I don't have an objection to that. And generally, I'm in favor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Boucher?
I also support the application for many of the reasons spoken to. And again, I did recognize when I took my ride over there, you know, remembered the density on the lot over there. So when I initially looked at it, I didn't have as many concerns as you did, but I was really looking at the neighbor to the north. But after looking at what being proposed there, I think, again, it says a lot when the neighbor is actually quote-unquote happy with what's going to happen. So I put a lot I put a lot into that. So with that, also, the 3 stories, I think my opinion is that I think it's more common now. You know, the 2.5 stories that I remember years ago seeing is that there's no garages. There's been just the parking in front and living space. And I think part of what's happening is I think the industry and the selling houses, I think garages is like the common thing now. So I'm okay with that because I know that, you know, what the home is being used for. It's not like the garages are going to be removed and turned into living space, that type of thing. So I'm going to support the application.
So I'm also in support. I thought this was an interesting case coming in. I am always interested to see if the neighbors are opposed. I really wanted to see who showed up tonight. I know we had the letter coming into this from the neighbor to the north at 21. When I did my drive-by, I think I went on Friday, I had to look twice. I didn't even realize that's another townhouse complex. Both the lots to the south of this are townhouse complexes, and I didn't realize that. It almost looked to me like there was 2 single-family houses, and I kind of had to look back there. I've been around long enough that I was here for the discussion about Sapphire when they were talking about putting those up. We've had multiple discussions in this corner of the town about the RA, RC areas. The line is here, and if we were 20 feet this way, it makes some big adjustments. The interesting thing about this complex is we basically can see what it's going to look like by looking at Sapphire. It's the same exact build-out. And I know our concerns at that point were, the deck's going to hang over these people, and will there be enough separation between the buildings? I'm quite sure those facilities are all full. So obviously they got snapped up. I do believe that these are a good gateway type house for folks to use as starter homes or to downsize to. The backside, obviously nothing's going to be built back there because it's PSNH and it's railroad, so it's not like they're going to get encroached on in the back. You've got the park across the street. I get the concern about people walking around. When I was there on Friday, we still had a ton of snow drifts. People were walking in the road with their dogs. I get it. We all just survived this winter. We're starting to see the sidewalks again, and I'm always very concerned about that. However, we have had other cases in Atherton in that area as well, and nobody's really ever really expressed any concerns about traffic in there. Once you get in there a little bit, it kind of dies down because you can kind of disseminate when you go a couple different ways in there. So I do like the plan. I do appreciate the fact that we did get the traffic survey, which, having just taken a really quick look at it, is not even anywhere close to triggering any type of concerns with the city, having been down this road a couple of times. I also did appreciate the very in-depth analysis from Keller Williams. As the applicant noted, usually it's a one-page, yep, I've looked at it, home values won't go down, but this was, this person really went into it, and I think put 4 or 5 different places as comparisons. So long-winded way for me to say that I am in favor of this, but I do think that when we get to the point when we are making a motion, we do need to make sure that we have stipulations in there of what was agreed to both the neighbor to the north and the neighbor to the south. We certainly have in writing that 21 Atherton was in favor because of the 6 criteria, but it was kind of on the fly tonight. The owner to the south came up with the agreement with the counselor. So as the counselor spoke to, we should make that a stipulation as well. Mr. Shaw.
This is, I think, more of a question for Mr. Falk, and I probably should have just brought it up during the testimony, but with the floor area ratio and all that calculation part of things, I'm assuming that there's no removal of the garage from the calculation or anything like that, right? So whether it was just all living space or garage, it's still just counted the same way? Or is that
gross floor area? But I don't think we count attics and mechanical rooms. The floor area ratio, I think, I've been here a long time. I think we've had maybe 3 in 28 years out of probably 5,000 requests that I've seen here. 3, and most of them are just barely over the limit. And not one human being would ever walk on this property and study this property for a week straight and determine what the floor area ratio is just by looking at it. Same thing with the open space. The floor area ratio is just barely above the limit. Same thing with the open space. They're allowed, you're supposed to have 50, it's 48.5 or something. No one could even tell that 1.5% at all. So the variances they're requesting are, in our staff's opinion, very minimal. Even the third story, 2.5 stories are allowed. But even on a 2.5-story building, that upper story can still have bedrooms, bathroom, a living room. It's just that walls on two opposite ends of the elevation can't be more than 4 feet high. So that's what makes it a half a story. There's less of a overall cubic volume of space, whatever the term is, up in that third floor. So even a 2.5-story building is going to have almost the same height as a 3-story building, because instead of a peak like this at 2.5, the peak is going to be more like this, possibly, with the third floor. So, you know, in staff's view of this, you know, we looked at this pretty carefully, and we thought all the variances were, Attorney Perlman and I emailed back and forth, and we said, come on, these are so close. Yeah, but, you know, we understand why they asked for them. And even the setbacks, Mr. Shaw, you brought up, with this lot having a front, a dedicated front, 2 sides, and a rear. Our staff actually had an ordinance proposed in a situation like this, where if you had a building with the backyard or the back of the property facing another property, that should be a rear yard, not sides like this. And here, all the backyards, units 7 through 10, do face a dedicated rear yard. But those setbacks are met by far. They're probably close to 30 feet. So those are all fine. The units to the north, they're also significantly more than the side yard setback on both sides. And there's more than 40, if not 50 feet of space between buildings. The fire department's only going to require 20. So they're significantly farther than what the code allows for fire safety, air and space, emergency access between the buildings if need be. So with the way this layout is proposed, it looks like it, you know, from a safety perspective, and light and space and air circulating through the property, you know, we thought it was a pretty good plan.
Any additional comments? All right, would anybody like to make a motion? I'll take it, that's fine. All right, I would like to make a motion on behalf of the Vernon C. Shelby and estate of Samuela Shelby and Philip Sennard, owners 15 and 19 Atherton Avenue, sheet 46, lots 22 and 23, requesting the following: a use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, number 15, to allow 16 multifamily units in 3 buildings, and the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, number 2 for land area, 51,619 square feet existing, 116,160 square feet required. Number 3 for open space, 50% required, 48% proposed. Number 4 for floor area ratio, 50% allowed, 61% proposed. And number 5 for maximum building stories, 2.5 stories permitted, 3 stories proposed. All requests to remove 2 single-family houses and construct 16 multifamily units. This is in the RA and RC zones in Ward 3. I would propose that we make a motion to approve this based on granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest in that, A, this adds additional housing stock to the city's housing. As these are smaller townhouses, they are good entry point homes, which the city has specifically asked for, or good facilities to downgrade as well. The spirit of the ordinance would be observed in several of these areas. First of all, based on the location of where this is located for the RA and RC zones, if this had been located a slightly different area, they would have been authorized up to 14 by right. In this case, they're asking for 16. We did take a look after some discussion with city staff about the way the buildings are separated, the side yard setbacks, the agreements made with the abutters on either side, that the ordinance basically is looking for enough open space so that buildings do not tower over each other. Based on the way these are situated on these two oversized lots, we find that the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. As I just noted a couple seconds ago, these are two oversized lots. They are abutting a right-of-way for PSNH and the railroad, so nothing can be built behind them. The two buildings that are currently on the lots have been noted that they're, the cost to renovate those and to, instead of just getting rid of them and adding in these 16 housing stock, really would do greater justice to the group that just bought these two properties and is combining them into one property. We did receive documentation from Keller Williams that the values of the surrounding properties would not be negatively affected. In fact, it came across that they would be positively affected. And as to unnecessary hardship, once again, as noted earlier, these properties are in oversized lots, two oversized lots. The neighbor to the north has agreed, because it turns out that their driveway was improperly infringing on the 19 Atherton, that the northern neighbor is looking to make an adjustment as agreed to by the applicant to clean that up. In addition, this is very close to two brand-new, relatively new townhouse complexes on Locke Street, which are exactly the same as this one, and they are adjacent to two older townhouse complexes on Atherton. So it does make sense that this is a consistent use of the types of properties in this area, and to not allow the applicant to build townhouses would create a hardship. We do have stipulations per the counselor when he made his presentation that they have agreements with the neighbors to the north and the neighbors to the south. The neighbor to the north, there was 6 points that he agreed to in a letter that's on record here, and in the chamber here, the neighbor to the south did make an agreement with the applicant as well. So for those reasons, I make a motion to approve the application. And a second by Mr. Shaw, thank you. Any additional comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion does pass 5-0. You're welcome. As you know, there's a 30-day window of appeal. If anything pops up, Mr. Falk will let you know. But thank you very much. That one was a mouthful.
We've had worse.
We have had worse. We have had worse. Okay, so next items, review the upcoming agenda for any regional impact. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the proposed agenda for in 2 weeks?
I see no regional.
I see none.
I concur with that as well. Okay. Now, we do have 2 sets of minutes that came through, and so we do need to go through those. And I will say, on the minutes, let's start with the minutes of February 10th, please. I do want to start by saying I had one adjustment on page 8. The second paragraph down, it says, Mr. Neely agreed, but everything before that was Mr. Neely speaking. So I either agreed with myself, which I usually do, or that was somebody else. So if you can, Mr. Falk, if you can take a look at that when you get a chance, that'd be great. That's the only adjustment I have. Does anybody else have any adjustments? Mr. Patry?
Yeah, I had the same, I had one or two other edits, but I had the same note. Was that even you, Mr. Boucher? I didn't think to go back and watch the tape, but I think, or were you?
Mr. Boucher was not here.
Right, so that was not Mr. Boucher.
Although, yeah, because then I spoke, then Mr. Lionel spoke.
I really think it was Mr. Lionel, because I think you spoke twice, Mr. Lionel.
I might have.
But Mr. Falk,
I
if
can
you
listen
just check
to
it
it.
out, that'd be
Yeah.
great, okay. Yes.
The other thing, just page 2, the paragraph that starts with announcing Attorney Perlman, line 9, that starts with that they've issued a favorable recommendation, and I would add, and the city agrees to all conditions of approval, just to make that a little more clear. I think I had one other edit. Oh, I did have one other. Page 18, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th paragraph, the second to last line that says, well, it starts with Mr. Neely said that the special regulations are fulfilled, and there's a reference to a Concom meeting. I think there was a Concom meeting dated February 3, 2026, because this says
I
2026.
agree with that.
That's all I had.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything for the February 10th minutes? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes with the...
So moved.
So moved, in a second. Okay, Mr. Shaw, thank you. And on to the minutes of February... Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I guess we could have a vote. All those in favor? I was all excited about that one. All right. So that passes. And February 24th, does anybody have any comments on the minutes of February 24th? None seen.
Not much to
Does
it.
anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Patry makes a motion.
Move to approve the minutes as drafted.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Mr. Lionel. All those in favor? All right, that passes 5-0. And do we have any other items that we want to discuss tonight? Okay, that being said, move to adjourn at 7:46.
46. Motion by Mr. Neely.
Mr. Shaw.
Oh, Rob.
All those in favor? Okay. We are adjourned.
Adjourned.